All right, so this is the third part of the Ultimate Ministry Advancement Training, and this deals specifically with strategy and developing a systems mindset. So we've talked already about getting the vision from God, and then we've also delved into how to execute your mission. So putting together an execution strategy that will cause us to execute. But now we're going to go to another level in really developing a systems mindset. And I believe this is a huge, huge undertaking and sort of a pivot towards how we usually, especially in the faith-based community, how we usually approach anything from organization to ministry to business. Many times we fail to understand the importance of developing systems, and because we don't have that understanding of how important systems are, we fail to really allow our ministries or whatever we are growing or developing to really see the full um, execution and things that it can actually accomplish. So that's what I really want to talk about today. And I hope that it will be a blessing to us. So, a question that I want to begin with is, what does it take to grow a ministry or a business? What is the key indicator? What is the thing that is going to really allow you to predict whether or not something is going to grow or something is going to expand? And many times when we think of that, we think of, a charismatic personality, we think of a great product, or we think of something that is just, so abnormal, right? We think those are the ones that will succeed and have growth and really go to the next level. But in reality, the thing that is going to separate one business from another, one ministry from another, is not necessarily the charisma of that leader, but rather the effectiveness of the systems that they put in place. That is the key indicator of whether or not something is going to grow. So, what does it take to grow a ministry or a business? Number one, infrastructure. Infrastructure. What is your infrastructure? And number two, it's systems. Developing systems. You have to have systems in place. And I'm going to define what these mean, and I'm going to really try to delve in as deeply as possible. But it's just so important for us to understand that unless we have proper infrastructure and systems, I don't care how charismatic the leader is, I don't care how great the product is, I don't care how great the service is, it's not going to grow. I'll repeat that. I don't care how charismatic the leader is. I don't care how great the product is. And I don't care how great the service is. Without infrastructure and systems, it does not matter. It will not grow. And that's why this is so important for us to understand. Ecclesiastes 10 and 10. If the iron is blunt and one does not sharpen the edge, he must use more strength. But wisdom helps one to succeed. So let me repeat. If the iron is blunt and one does not sharpen the edge, he must use more strength. But wisdom helps one to succeed. So let me unpack that. If the iron isn't sharp, you have to use more strength in order to see it work. But when you sharpen the edge, it that's wisdom. Wisdom says, I'm going to sharpen the edge so that way the iron works for me and I don't have to use all of my strength in order to succeed or see any success from it. And that is what systems does for an organization. It causes you to say, instead of me putting all of my energy and my strength into just, you know, building this business, putting 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, just grinding, grinding, grinding. A wise person says, let me develop systems that work for me. Let me develop systems that work when I'm sleeping. Let me develop systems that will help me to grow at a faster rate. And that in Solomon tells us this in Ecclesiastes. Andy Stanley, the pastor of the largest church in America, made this quote. He said, the systems you have are perfectly designed to get the results you are getting. This, that's such a beautiful quote. It's so true. The systems you have are perfectly designed to get the results that you are getting. So if you are getting certain results right now, let's say you're running a business. If your business is getting certain results, it's because of the systems that you put in place to produce those results. If your ministry is reaching a certain amount of people right now, it's because of the systems that you have in place right now. Your systems are the things that are getting you the results that you're getting right now. And that is why, as leaders, as business owners, as ministry personnel, we have to be thinking, what type of systems do we need to put in place in order to help us reach our goal and vision? So going back to vision, you have a vision from God, you have a mission to execute. Now is the time to put systems in place that will allow you to get the results that you need to get. Systems. That's that is the absolute critical thing that's going to separate a successful company from a not successful company. A a successful ministry that reaches a lot of people from one that doesn't reach a lot of people. It's the systems. If you put the right system in place, the system will get the results. All right. Systems allow us to sharpen our ministries and businesses. Systems, good systems, prevent bad results. And being small is no excuse for having no systems. In fact, everyone has systems. It's just a matter if those systems are working or if they aren't. And the key for us to understand, we have so many traditions in every single thing that we do, and we don't challenge those traditions if they are not producing. So as leaders, we have to look at everything that we're doing and say, are these things working? Or do we need to change we have to examine our systems. Sometimes we have to update our systems. You know, every time for all those that have iPhones, you get that notification, updated, updated, updating. We're going to update. So do you want to update now or do you want to update later? Every single, whether it's Google, Apple, Facebook, those are systems and they're constantly updated. So everyone has a system that they're working with, an operating system, a way in which they do things. And the leader that wants to see that's why you have to have a vision from God that forces you not to be married to traditions that are not going to produce the results that you need in order to accomplish that vision. The system that you put in place is going to get the results that you're looking for. Good systems prevent bad results. And that is why it is so important for us to put good systems in place. Here's a quote. We can never do what only God can do, and God will never do what he has asked us to do. So we have to understand that yes, God is going to do what only he can do, but he's not going to do what we're supposed to do. So we can't just pray, 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 fast, 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 and not do what God has called us to do. And do the thing that God has ordained us to do. And God has given us everything that we need. I heard TD Jakes say one time that God built the tree, but he's never built a chair. He 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 produced the tree, right? He allowed the all of the necessary ingredients for that tree to produce and to grow, but he's not building a chair. He's saying, I made the tree, you make the chair. So we have to understand that God has given us all of the necessary tools that we need in order to accomplish whatever it is that we need to accomplish. There's so many people who say today, well, I don't have the resources. I don't have I don't have the right education. God, if God has given something to you, everything that you currently have will God will use in order to get that done. You just have to understand that you just need to put what you have to work and God will bless it. And once we do that and stop making excuses and say, I'm gonna use what God has given me to get where I need to go, then God will bless it. But what will separate a person who's successful from one that's not is a person who understands how to put systems and processes in place that will get them the results that they need to get. Without healthy systems, the organization will be ineffective and never reach its potential. Without healthy systems, the organization will be ineffective and never reach its potential. It's just the truth. The thing that separates companies that fail from ones that succeed has to do with their infrastructure and their ability to build systems that will foster growth. And again, like I mentioned before, systems are constantly updated. They're never just stagnant. You update based off of new data that you receive. So you're constantly updating, but you have to understand as a leader and a business owner that you have to consistently update and build infrastructure that will allow you to see growth. And sometimes you have to build the infrastructure before the growth even comes. And I'll kind of talk a little bit more about that further in this training. Here's something we have to understand as well. God is a God of systems. He's a God of patterns. He's a God of process. He's a God of strategy, and he's a God of structure. Think about it. The 7-day creation. There was process there. He creates the light. 3 days later, he creates the sun and the stars. He creates the water and separates it from the firmament. 3 days later, he creates the birds and the fish. He creates the ground. 3 days later, he creates the animals that are upon that ground. He's a God of infrastructure, systems. We live in a world of system, a universe. We're a part of the solar system. Our bodies are made up of systems, the digestive system, the there's a whole bunch of systems going on. I don't know all of them, but it's just important for us to understand that we have systems. We're a part of, and think about, just like, let's think about our body, for instance. You never have to think, I need to breathe. No, there's a system already in place that just allows you to breathe. If you had to think before every single thing in your body did what it needs to do, you would die. There's no way, because your body is so complex that there needs to be something that's on automation, that there needs to be certain parts of your body that knows what to do without your brain telling it all the time in order for you to survive. The world operates off of certain systems. We have seasons. This happens during this season. This happens during that season. So we understand that God is not random. You know, we Pentecostals, we use that verse in Acts, and suddenly a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind. And we think that's how God operates. Just suddenly everything happens. No. The day of Pentecost, the when God poured out his spirit on those people on the upper room in Jerusalem, they had to follow a system and a pattern in order for that to happen. Nothing in the scripture just happened by osmosis. God is a God of pattern, and his spirit blesses and responds to structure and strategy and process and patterns. So we have to understand, as spirit-filled believers, that if we want God to bless what we're doing, we have to have certain processes in place that will produce predictable results. That will produce predictable results, and God blesses and honors that. Another verse, Exodus chapter 25 and verse 40. And see that you make them after the pattern for them, for which is being shown you on the mountain. This is talking about when Moses received instruction for the tabernacle plan. He received detailed instruction. Same with Noah on the ark, detailed instructions. Like like when God gave instruction to people, they had detailed instruction. They couldn't just build it any kind of way, because God understood that if they did not build what they were doing after a certain structure and a certain system, then it would not produce the results that it needed to produce. And it's the same with us. If we're building a ministry, if we're building a business, what we need to think is, how do I need to build this in a way that will produce predictable results? Because if you don't, and you just throw some things together and hope that God blesses it, it's not going to succeed. And that is why it's so important that we get this into our spirits, into our minds. When I'm building something, I can't just think, okay, I hope I make a lot of money. I can't just think, okay, I'm just going to put this together and pray that God blesses it. We have to do a little bit of forethought, and we need to think of building it in a way. We need to think through the entire process from the time somebody, whether we're serving somebody, comes to our ministry or our business, to the time that whatever it is that our business or our ministry is designed to produces it. We have to think through that entire process and lay out the way that whole thing works. And we have to think, okay, how can I do this in a way that it will be profitable, or it will produce the results that it's supposed to produce? Proverbs 21:5. The plans of the diligent surely lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. So the Bible tells us very clearly that unless we plan, we're not going to see any results. It doesn't matter how much you pray. You pray, then you plan. That's why we talked about getting it from God, getting something deep in our hearts towards what it is that we were accomplishing, able to accomplish. But once we do that, then we have to plan. How is this going to work? How is this going to be profitable? How is this? We have to do that strategic planning in order to see the results take place. And the Bible tells us that if we are diligent, our work will lead to abundance. But everyone who's hasty, starting this thing, then I'm going to start this thing, then I'm going to start this thing. Wherever the Spirit leads me, I'm going to go there. It's going to lead to poverty. So we have to shift our mindset to building systems. And we have to understand it takes time. It doesn't just happen by osmosis. It takes time. But when we're diligent and we put the right things in place, it will produce over time. God is not last minute. God is not anti-planning. So we have to understand that. Like it's just what I'm trying to do is work through a mind shift. God is not last minute. God is not anti-planning. I may be last minute. I may not like the plan, but God isn't. So if I want God to bless what I'm doing, I have to let my mind shift towards how his mind operates. And when I do, then I'm going to see the results that I need to see. All of the results in our lives are a direct result of our system. And this is sad, it's just the sad truth. If my financial situation right now is a direct result of the systems that I put together in my life. My health situation is a direct result of the systems that I put together in my life. Everything that I have in my life to this day is a direct result of the systems that I put in place, whether they're good or bad. So it's unfortunate. Like some of us, we have unfortunate situations that have happened to us, and those things it's unfortunate. However, we also know that God can help us put the right systems in place in order to get the better results. And that's what this whole mind shift is all about. Saying, you know what? I can put the right things in place that will help me to get the right results. I don't have to be a victim of my circumstance, but I can overcome it by implementing and putting the right systems in place. It is never too late to change the system. Focusing on working systems will create the results that you desire. So focusing on working systems will create the results that you desire. So where should our focus be on? Building the system. Building the systems that will produce the results that we want to produce. If we emphasize and focus on that, then whatever it is that we are looking to see happen in our lives it will come to pass. It's just making that shift. So let's look at some definitions of what a system is. A system, it's a fixed formula, it's a concise calculation, it's a proven procedure. A fixed formula, I know this sounds sort of mathy, but it's a fixed formula. So A plus B equals C. When I do this and I apply this software or this solution, over time will produce C. That is how our mind ought to think. A concise calculation. So we're forethoughting. If I do this a number of times, I'm going to get this. We are looking for predictable, proven procedures that will allow us to see the result that we are looking to see. When you are not systematic in your approach to ministry or business, you don't focus, you don't pay attention to the details. Therefore, you don't do the little things right and you get frustrated because you don't see the results that you desire. So, when we are not systematic in our approach, we're not focused and we're not paying attention to the details. Therefore, we don't do the little things right and we get frustrated because we don't see the results that we are desiring. Whenever there is a problem at our ministry or business, it is very seldom a people problem. Let me repeat that. Whenever there is a problem, it's usually not because of the people. It's usually a systems problem. Whenever we're working with anyone in our business or our ministry, we usually like to say, man, it's these people, they're the problem. No, they're not. No, they're not. You don't have the proper systems that are going to get you the results that you need. And that's why this is a shift that we really need to take into 2021 with whatever it is that we're doing. We need to really think through the systems that we are looking to produce in order to see the results that we need to see. It's just putting the right systems in place. If you want to see change in your ministry or business, you must address the systems or the lack of systems in your ministry or business. So, the key to real sustaining change is by putting the right system in place. Whenever there's a problem, it's because there is a system that is not put together properly. Anytime. And that's a good thing because that says all I have to do is change the way I'm doing this, and that's going to help me get the right result. So every time we see an issue, so we ought to be thinking, okay, what are some issues I'm facing right now in my personal life, in my ministry, or in my business? What are the things that what are the things that I'm struggling with? And if I'm struggling, what system can I put in place that will allow me to see better results? And this is an ongoing thing, that an ongoing discussion that we have to make, because every problem has a solution. Every single one. It doesn't matter what it is, there's always a solution. But we need to be thinking about addressing the issues that we have. So many times we just think that some issues will never get solved. Man, this business will never succeed. This business will never come. This ministry will never grow. This whatever I'm doing is never going to have success. That's not true. It can have success if you change the system. If you change the system. Systems. So I know we've been talking about this so long, and I'll try to go into some like details and you can um, how you can apply this into your life. But I just want to just nail down on how important this is. Systems matter. The importance of systems in a ministry or business. It is very seldom. I mentioned this before, but it's so important we understand this. It's not a people problem. It's a systems problems. All inadequacy, uh, all inadequacies and issues in the ministry can be solved when the appropriate system is developed and activated. Without healthy systems in a ministry or business, you will struggle to reach your goals. Therefore, it will be increasingly ineffective and will never reach its full potential. So, again, systems matter, and it's important that we understand that. Systems are a leader's best friend. Focusing on working systems will help you create the results that you desire. Going back to that Ecclesiastes scripture, remember, when the blade is dull, you have to work harder. It's more effort. It's so much more strenuous on your energy because you're putting a lot of energy in something that's not working instead of sharpening that blade. So as leaders, we should not be working so hard on the business. I mean, in the business, but we should be working on the business or on the ministry and putting the right systems in place that will get you the predictable results that you're looking for. That's the key to seeing success. More benefits of systems. Systems prevent bad results. Good systems reduce the anxiety of the pastor or leader. Good systems hold leaders and team members accountable. When you implement the system approach, you will eliminate the need for people to read the leader's mind. They don't have to wonder how the leader would like it done. Clearly defined systems make it crystal clear what is to be done and the results desired. Systems create a larger infrastructure for people to come and experience the benefit. A lot of leaders and business owners desired growth. But let me just ask you something. I'll give two examples. Let's say that a church out of nowhere tomorrow 1,000 people just showed up. Do you have the right system to to bring those people into your ministry? Especially now with COVID and social distancing, do you have the right infrastructure or system to experience that growth and bring all of those people into your ministry? If not, then it's because we don't have the right systems in place. And then for a business, let's say tomorrow you had 1,000 new customers that want your business or want your service or want your product. Do you have the system in place right now to facilitate all of those new customers that you have? Or do you have to individually work with each of them? It's important for us to understand that even if you did grow, that growth would not be a blessing. It would be more of a curse because you don't have the structures in place to handle that growth. So we want to experience the blessing of the Lord, but the blessing of the Lord will become a curse to us if we don't have the right systems in place and processes. So that's why it's so important for us to understand this. We need to be thinking constantly in the future on how we can experience the growth. So sometimes you have to think forward and say, what does it take for me to be able to handle 1,000 new customers, 1,000 new church members, 1,000 new people experiencing my ministry? And you have to use and constantly research different tools and different softwares that are out there now because of the internet, and there's so many different things out there that sometimes you may just have to think things through differently. Maybe you have to do ministry different now. Maybe you need to do your business different now. Maybe I don't need to bring everyone into a building or a store. Maybe I need to learn how to change and pivot the way I do it to being able to do it online. So focusing on systems will help us to rid ourselves of non-fruitful tradition and think about what it is that God has called me to do. So going back to what God called me to do, when I know that, then I say, okay, what systems can I put in place that will help me reach that goal? That is what the leader will will accomplish when they focus on systems. So here's practical suggestions. Create or fix systems one at a time. Don't try to solve your whole business or ministry at the same time because you won't. It takes time putting proper systems in place. Don't tackle the entire ministry or business at once. Start with the biggest problem. So I want us to think, what's the biggest problem that I'm facing right now? Whether it's lack of sales, we're disorganized, we don't have a clear process, our team isn't working properly. Just think of what's the biggest problem I'm facing right now and work through a methodical system. So that's whether it's a document that you have to put together, maybe your staff needs to get trained in this particular area, maybe it's just putting a new software in place. There's so many different ways in which you can approach it. But the thing is, you have to understand with any problem, there is a solution. Whether it's your biggest problem, whether it's something you've struggled with for a long time, there are solutions out there. But it comes through developing a system one at a time, one at a time. And after a while, you'll begin to see congruency. You'll begin to see better results. And ultimately, you're going to see your ministry or your business seeing the results that you need and desire to see. This compilation of systems will help leaders create applicable systems that will enable the business or ministry to become healthier, more effective, and more productive. And that's what we're ultimately looking to see happen. So here's a how to create a system. Get your leaders or people to commit and describe in detail what the problem is. Document what they say, details are important. Verbally work through the problem and offer suggestions. How to figure out how to fix the problem or eliminate the problem. Don't give up. There is a solution to every problem or obstacle. Document the fix and fix it. That's really how a system can be developed, whether it's in a business or a ministry. If you just get the right people involved, it may not be anyone, it may just be yourself, but document what's really causing this problem to continue and work through it. There's always a solution. Always. It's never there's never any issue that can't be solved. You just have to focus on it and put the right thing in place, and you test it, and maybe that thing doesn't work, then you go back to the drawing board and you recalibrate and you look at some more suggestions. You do research. You go on YouTube, you go on Google, you look at other people who have had that same problem, and you try to figure out solution, and then you document it, and then you find a software or whatever it is that you have to do in order to solve that problem. And you look at your biggest problem first and you work your way down. And eventually you're just going to see your ministry or your business continue to see success. This is a system, this is a process that will get you success in anything that you're doing. It's just working at it in a methodical way. So here's a few more things before we finish up today. Truth number one: if you execute the new system, you should never have to deal with that problem again. Moving forward, the execution and the implementing of the system according to the specs in the system will be a challenge. You have to be committed to the process. So you should not have to continually deal with that problem. If you execute it properly, if you execute the system properly, the goal is I should not have to keep dealing with that same problem. That's what systems are designed to do. They're supposed to eliminate the problem. But if the problem keeps festering, that means that you're not executing the system properly, or the system is not the right system to solve that problem, which means you have to go back to the drawing board. Number two, as you implement the system, you will see things that can be done better and improved upon. You will need to make adjustments in order to keep the system working at peak efficiency. This requires an ongoing evaluation of the current operating system. Going back to iPhone, if you have an iPhone, you're constantly getting that thing, that message. Do you want to update now? Why? Because those people over in Apple, they're constantly looking at how they can improve their phone or their software. So just because you build a system, that does not mean that the system does not need to change. That does not mean that you don't have to make adjustments. You're going to have to constantly make adjustments. However, now you're just improving upon something that is now getting good results instead of bad ones. And so that's what the focus of the leader ought to be. So that leads to our assignment: create one system for your ministry or organization. And also, I've made 3 book recommendations so far. This is my third one. Read the book Soar by T.D. Jakes and write a 1-page summary about that book. This is a awesome book for someone that's looking to start a ministry or a business, and he really breaks down how to really build something that's going to succeed. Highly recommend it. It's an excellent book, and he really delves into infrastructure and systems and how to build something that's going to have success ultimately. So that's the end of the ultimate kingdom, ultimate ministry advancement guide. Having your vision from God, executing the mission. We understand the difference between a mission and a vision, and then putting systems in place. When we do those 3 things, nothing's impossible. Nothing will be impossible with us when those things are put in place and we see these things begin to grow. I really, really hope that this training has been beneficial to you. And I hope that you take these things that we've talked about and really implement them, because they do work. If you work them, they will help you to get success. You can come back to this training and see success if you just put together. It's really that 3-step process: hear from God, look at your mission and how to execute it, and put systems together. Regardless of what you're doing, that 3-step process will help you to do it. So like we talked about, if we can go ahead and maybe do some discussion, some feedback, and talk about maybe some of the feedback that we've gotten from today's training. Why don't we begin with Sister Clinice?
I enjoyed the session today, Pastor. Um, I looked at I listened to what you said about the definition
Mm-hmm.
of systems. I thought it was interesting how you said it was a fixed formula, concise calculation, and a proven procedure. And as you were speaking, I just started thinking, what could I relate that to? That's how my mind works. Always, I'm sure most people's mind work like that. You think, like, how can I relate to that? And I was thinking about, like, if with regard to your health, if you wanted to maybe lose weight or get more fit, and
Yep.
then in the past, it was what you put in your body,
Mm-hmm.
and then you try to think about what type of what kind of energy you expend with regard to exercise, and that's going to produce a result, maybe in a 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And
Yep.
as you can say, if you keep going with that system, that should elicit a result in what you would like, what you desire.
Absolutely.
But I really looked at that, and then I thought about in a business perspective, as far as an example with regard to that, I looked at, I was thinking about, for example, franchises like
Yep.
McDonald's.
Absolutely.
That guy, I think is Kroc. Kroc is this
Yep.
Rick. Actually, he started out there in California, I think,
He did.
years ago. But he had that little business going with the burgers, and actually,
Mhm.
I was told they weren't the best burgers.
They weren't.
But
That's,
what he
that's a
did
great
was,
example.
yeah, so what he did was he said, okay, so how can I expand? And he came up with this formula, and he sold it
Mhm.
to, maybe the guy, in a couple, in the next county.
Yep.
And then this guy didn't have to create the wheel again, but he just looked at that formula, as
Hmm.
you can say, that definition. And then he had McDonald's too. I guess they were at, by then, they hadn't gone to the $1 billion.
Hmm.
By then so maybe over 10,000 by then,
Right.
the franchise. So that was just what I thought about as you were speaking, but it's a really good example you gave. I enjoyed what you had spoken about with the kingdom uh, design for your business or ministry, with the vision, the mission, and the systems. Thought it was great.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Brother Chuck, I think you're still. How did you? Do you have some feedback from today's lesson?
Yeah, I do. It's about systems. 'Cause I know, coming from my background, I understand like systems and formulas and everything like that, but I just never thought to do like you did and apply that to like an actual situation, and except for like networks and like on paper and machines and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. These are principles, and principles can be applied anywhere. Um, and that same knowledge that you gained in your your studies,
Hmm.
you can apply them to anything. Let's say you're looking to start a business. Those same concepts, these things that we know, um you know will work or they won't work, or whatever it is that we're trying to do, you build a system that will produce the results that you're looking for. So and ultimately what this training is designed to do is to help us to understand that there's no problem that can't be solved. And as leaders and as business people or whatever it is that we're trying to do, the whole idea is to solve a problem. There are people with problems. Our job is to create something that will solve it. And when you do that and you create the proper system, you're going to see a good result. And that's ultimately what this training is designed to do, is to help us to understand that you can be a problem solver. What people are looking for is problem solvers. And if we're able to do that and create things that will solve people's problem, that's how you become successful. That's how you gain wealth, is by doing that. So it's a real simple concept, but it really just requires us to shift our mindset. Awesome. Good feedback. Um Mur- Murphy. Murphy. You've are you able to unmute your hello, how are you? You're cutting in and out. Hello? Are you able to message, maybe send a something in the chat? It's kind of difficult to. I don't know if you're driving or not. Um, but if you have like maybe some feedback from today's training, maybe you could put it in the chat. If not, then there will be a recording from all of these sessions that we'll put together for you all. But like I mentioned before, just, we really pray that this was beneficial to you as you prepare for the next year and you really begin to think about, what God wants you to do in 2021. Really put some of these, hopefully you can put some of these things that we've talked about over the past few months into action, because you can create a new future for yourself. I know that we're in the middle of a pandemic and there's lots of issues that we see going on in the world, but some people see obstacles, others see opportunity. And it's just how you look at things. It's just your perspective. And if you put together and if you put together the proper things in place, then you will see some results. Murphy, I see the message that you put there. We'll go ahead and send you the link to the training, and you'll be able to get access to it that way. But thank you guys again so much for coming on today's training, and we pray that it was a blessing to you. And like I said, we will send this training to you. Again, does anyone else have any comments or questions before we end today's session?
We thank you so much, Pastor. We're here in Tennessee. We appreciate all the wisdom you gave us. It was wonderful. And we wish you and your family a Merry Christmas.
Absolutely. And I just ask if it was beneficial, we'll have this resource available to you with the PDF. And if you know anyone else that would benefit from this training, feel free to share the link with them. And the link will be available for you if you want to go back through some of the sessions that we talked about. But I appreciate you all taking your Saturdays out to develop and to grow. And that's really the first step towards seeing success, is the willingness to invest in yourself. So we really appreciate the time.
We appreciate you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, God bless you all. Thank you again. And I pray that we'll see each other again soon. God bless you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Amen. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
All right. God bless.